Beyond the fact that Plateau State is the home of peace and tourism, there is something that is really special about Plateau, and that is the Silicon Plateau. This is the Silicon Plateau podcast, where we get to explore people, ideas, and opportunities that shape the innovation of the people right here on the plateau and beyond. My name is Pedro Mobolaji, and I'm going to be your guide. Today, my guest is an amazing guest. She is super fantastic. The reason is simple. She's the bad guy. Yeah. How bad is bad? Okay. The truth is that her work sits at the heart of startup. She has helped a whole lot of startups. She has worked with founders. She has worked with, quite a number of people within the tech ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, why did I call her the bad guy? It's simple. She is the CEC. That is Cynthia E. Chisholm. Good to have you on the podcast.
Good to be here. Thank you so much.
All right. Beautiful. Beyond all the profile, we would like to, I'm sure the audience too would like to know who Cynthia E. Chisholm is.
Interesting. So my work in life is really centered around supporting the ecosystem and supporting the founders in that ecosystem, in the startup ecosystem. So you would see it in expression through the work that we're doing at the Enablers Network, where we more or less are like the catalyst across, different cities, helping each enabler understand their role and giving them the resources and the tools and the access and relationships they need to build that ecosystem for their city. Or you'll find it in expression through SDC, which is short form for Startup Development Center, which is a research and advisory firm that empowers corporate, government, and other institutions to basically think through ways to build venture building frameworks for the African founder from our context, and can be used in global context as well. So everything I do is really centered around how do we ensure that, Africa remains a fertile ground for founders to be found, for founders to be supported, and for, impact to be created on the continent. So,
Okay, so beyond all those things, I just wanted the audience to know who you are. Beyond, helping to find founders, giving them support and all of that. Perhaps, there might be another young CEC, Cynthia E. Chisholm, watching this and who might be inspired, knowing that, my journey is similar to this. That was why I asked that, beyond all this, just tell us a little about yourself, maybe growing up, did you just wake up one morning and take?
Great question. Actually, growing up, I never saw this as a pathway for myself. I think my original dream while growing up was to play for the Nigerian female football team, the Falcons.
Wow.
And I was actually on the path to doing that, very, very close to it, until my parents said I need to get a university degree. If not, there will be no stability, for myself. So, I mean, it's one of the best advice I would say that really shaped my life. And I'm glad that I didn't, go on to pursue that passion. Because upon getting the university degree, I ventured into the world of tech, right? And it wasn't tech first, it was more shoe repair, right? Yeah, shoe repair. So
Tell us about it.
my background, my original first company I ever built, and still alive to today, is Diabuki Africa, which is focused on fixing shoes for customers.
Okay.
And so the first skill I acquired was shoe repair. I actually traveled to Onitsha to learn how to fix shoes from my master. Also worked in the West, in Ogun State as well, fixing shoes, right? Wow. So it was in the process of trying to serve my customers well that I realized tech could be a great, avenue, that I found myself acquiring like HTML, CSS, learning all those skills to build a website at that time. And that was the beginning into basically the world of tech. But initially, that was not the plan. Initially, it was just wanting to fix shoes. I love fixing shoes. I still love doing it, even though I'm not fully involved in it. And, but That was basically how this journey started.
Fixing shoes, football,
Very
feet,
far from it.
the foot is always involved and all of that.
Interesting.
And at the core is also footing startups, founders, and all of that. So, which takes me to to the next question, because you have already answered that part of the question that I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask you about if you remember any founder, the first that you ever supported, that you ever worked with. Tell us the experience. What was it like?
Wow, that's definitely a long time ago now. Phew, that's a long time ago. I can't remember the first, but if I think about the early years of like helping, businesses, helping companies, I think the biggest thing that just made me continue, right, if I was to put it from that angle, was just how people say, "Oh, Cynthia, you've been able to build, this company. Come help me figure out how to Dubai," right? And in the process of answering their questions, I just began to see like most businesses experience the same level of like challenges in terms of like at the core principle of building a business.
What like?
So when you're starting out, you have an idea. You always have a question around, okay, how do I start? Where do I start from? What's the first thing I should do, right? Do I do this or do I do that? Which comes first? Which comes later, right? And those are like the questions. And if a founder pursues something that they should be doing much later and they miss out on the critical things that they should be doing at the very early stage, they might basically burn out or give up too quickly, right? So challenges around getting customers, challenges around, generating revenue, challenges around managing that revenue, managing the team, growing the company. And these are challenges that I'm very familiar with, right? And I've been able to conquer, part time. And so helping those companies, sort of figure out what to do was also very helpful. But I also want to say that there was a point in the very early years where I realized that I wasn't able to give as much as these guys required of me.
Why?
Because their questions became, will I say, tough for me at that time, right? And I wasn't able to give. I don't know if there's a word to just describe the level of wisdom that is required to help those guys. I wasn't there yet. So that was when I just paused everything and I had to go further my degree at Imperial College London Business School. And I focused on entrepreneurship, innovation, and management. But I would say it was that entire knowledge, that entire process of expanding my knowledge that made me realize, there's even a bigger problem at play, which was what led me to ecosystem development work.
And I think that would have been, one of the most challenging. And it made you also to see that, yes, this work that you're about to do is very, very critical to the core of tech, supporting founders and all of that.
Tired of juggling multiple apps for your money? Meet Liquify, your all-in-one financial companion. Access loans at the most competitive interest rate to handle emergency. Spend globally using our virtual card service on all your favorite platforms. We let your money go borderless using stablecoin cryptocurrency to access global markets. We provide safe investment options backed by government financial instruments designed for long-term wealth creation. Easily spend your stablecoin on everyday needs like airtime, data, and bill payments, all in one secure app. Liquify, money that moves with you, coming soon. Join the waitlist at liquify.com.
Do you want to tell us, some experiences that made you feel happy that, wow, I was able to solve this, and it is contributing to the growth and development of tech hubs and communities, creating more people to go into tech in Nigeria? You want to share some of those experiences with us?
Wow, there's so many.
Yes, maybe so just many. One or two.
Okay, so my goodness, there was a particular one. Okay, So there's a particular one that I remember recently. A founder was telling me that that there's this video that he watched online. I should go check it out. I should go check out the video. So I went, I checked out the video, and this was like a group of Nigerian founders who had traveled to Kigali, I believe. And they were doing a tour of, there's a particular, one of the largest hubs in Kigali, if I'm correct, I think it's Noresken. So they were doing a tour of the facility. And then in the process, the tour guide, who is not Nigerian, was talking about the activities that they have in their, hub. And they said Founders Friday. And someone in the audience said, hey, is it the same Founders Friday that happens in Abuja, right? And then the Kenyan, or I think probably a Kenyan or Rwandan guy was confused. Like, what do you mean? And he kept saying, like, is it like Founders Friday, Cynthia, and all the other enablers and all of that? And he says, oh, no, it's not the same and all of that. But it just really showed, how far, like, how much of an impact Founders Friday in itself, which is one of the initiatives of ecosystem development that we've done, has on the founders, so much so that they are, so proud and willing to, like, talk about it in a different country, in a different city. Even down to direct ecosystem development, where we go to a city that never knew, what it meant to build an ecosystem. They left it to just, chance, right? They were never deliberate. They were never intentional. They didn't even know how to be deliberate. Right, but we spend time with them, we set up calls, connect them with the right stakeholders, and now they are able to set up their own indigenous incubator program. They are doing great work for their city. Or is it Castina the other day, just a few months back, they started the Founders Friday, which is one of the initiatives, that has great impact. And the ecosystem enabler said, oh, do you know what, let's give $100 every Founders Friday to the best pitch at Founders Friday, and they are the ones giving the money. So does not have anything to do with, like, any other city. This is just the enablers themselves saying we're going to put together $100 every month, and they've been doing that consistently. And founders want to show up because they know that there is some form of financial support that is being given by the enablers themselves. Now, prior to us coming to the ecosystem, that did not exist, right? So there are so many stories to just tell of this.
And I'm sure that makes you happy each time you look back. You look at Katsina. I saw it in you the way you mentioned Katsina. It looks like if you could get another indigenous, you will either choose between Plateau State or Katsina. And you've been talking about Friday, and the fact that it was mentioned in Kigali and your name was also mentioned there. So was that why you visited Plateau State on a Friday? But that's on a lighter note, because you have worked with different founders, communities, and stakeholders. Let's get to talk about patterns. What patterns have you noticed that has worked? Is it the incentives that comes with it? Or are there something else, that you have noticed within the patterns?
So patterns that we've noticed across cities where we see ecosystem development growing at a really fast pace will be when the enablers, one, know their role, and then two, they are not selfish. Like, they have this willingness to collaborate with one another and willingness to give to the founders, give selflessly to the ecosystem, such that they are not expecting anything in return in the short term, right? Any ecosystem that has 1, 2, 3, or 4 people that have this mindset, that ecosystem has a greater chance of survival, as opposed to an ecosystem where everybody is self-centered, where everybody is just all about, what they can get for themselves, right? And not willing to put their foot forward. I mean, give the casino, for example, nobody is coming from outside to give them the $100. Wow, they are contributing within themselves as enablers, right, to consistently give out $100, which is about around 20 to 150K every month to founders to build their ideas, right? And it's not backed by any government. It's not backed by any UN or UNDP or whatnot. It's just themselves. So whenever we see that underlying layer of just selflessness and willingness to give to the growth of the ecosystem, that ecosystem has a greater chance. Yes, are there cities that we've gone to, we've shown like the framework, we've energized the city, and they decide that we are fine with with what we have, and we're not willing to go the extra mile. Yes, there are cities like that, you know, but we don't force. Our goal is just to go there if they're willing to take on, you know, the work that is required, and they see what's at stake and they see the future, and they're willing to make that sacrifice. Then we are there to help them through the process.
So would you say that you know, being self-centered by some of the founders in a particular region or in a city is that missing link, you know, that makes the ecosystem struggle?
Yeah, self-centeredness by the enablers particularly, you know, because the enablers are there to support the founders, right? The founders, they can't do anything in outside of themselves, right? They are bound by the quality of work that the enablers are doing in the city, right? So if the enablers are self-centered, then, you know, there's no great chance. And the thing about being self-centered, the thing about being selfless is that when you're selflessly involved in just really wanting to see the city grow, really want to see young people who have ideas, like really build those ideas, turn that into companies, is that it moves people to be more strategic, right? It moves people to, you know, open up to collaboration and partnership from outside of the city. It moves people to be more, to monitor their process, to monitor their growth, to be more accountable, right? There's just a lot of fruits that comes out of being, you know, selfless and willing to build, because ecosystem development work, it's hard work. It's hard work. It's unpaid, uncelebrated work, and most of the people who have built ecosystems, nobody will probably remember their names, right? But they will see the fruits. Like, for example, nobody knows me in Castina. They don't need to know me, right? When I'm talking about the founders who are receiving,
But they know
about the impact, you know, of the enablers themselves and the work that is going on. You know, there are other members of the team, Austin, Praise, Faith. These people, nobody knows them, but the work that they do selflessly every single day, every single week, it is felt. Like the
impact is felt directly.
It's felt.
Yeah, that's beautiful. There are lots of misconceptions when it comes to startup ecosystem. If you could correct one, you know, that is actually slowing down the clock of progression, you know, and progress as it is, which one would you want to correct amongst so many misconceptions?
I think one misconception would be that, I think it's a known fact, but let me just put it this way, is that apart from within the context of Nigeria and also within the context of Africa, is that apart from Lagos, there are no founders, right? So people say apart from Nigeria, you know, from Lagos, Nairobi, Cairo, and maybe Kigali, you know, there are no founders. But, you know, Africa has, you know, 54 countries. Nigeria has, you know, 36 states, right? Including FCT. So you know that there are people, and that means that the dimensions of problems that exist across these cities, you know, are also different. It means that founders exist in those cities trying to solve the problems that they encounter. So the biggest misconception is thinking that you can only find quality founders in a particular place. You know, but founders can be built and can be seen, you know, doing impactful work across all the other cities. And it's really important that we take our minds off that idea and be willing to go beyond whatever boundaries that have been set by the myths that have been propagated in time past.
All right, beautiful. You know the saying about first impression. You don't need a second chance to create one. You were at Plateau State Enablers Ecosystem dinner yesterday. What was your first impression about, you know, the ecosystem, the tech ecosystem on the Plateau? Or what was your first impression about it from what you saw at that dinner?
First impression was people came on time. I was expecting a lot of people to come in late. But most importantly is the fact that there was strong commitment from the government, right? There was, I mean, not just commitment in the case of, for the sake of pictures, like you could see a roadmap, you could see milestones that they were measuring, you could see action steps that they've taken to sort of move in the direction of the vision that they have for their city. Like you could see that interest to actually want to do things differently. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? In some cities, they have to wait for their government to catch up. But, if you have a city where the government is already like aware of their role and they're already taking steps to support whoever is in the ecosystem, right? It's really exciting. It makes the work easier. So being in that room and having to share like some of the things that I shared, in some other context, you probably be just some parts of the enablers that will be there. But being in that room and just having the opportunity to even share it with the broader, ecosystem, and everybody was hearing the same thing, it just makes the work easier to execute, and it means that the future of Plateau is bright.
Wow. Well, you can say that again to the camera.
Yes, it's bright.
We love it. We love to hear that.
Sending money home without losing half to fees.
Paying my bills before the deadline every time.
Investing in my future and not just surviving today.
Having a backup when emergency hits.
One app that just works.
Thousands of people are already on the wait list.
Liquify.
Build for us, build by us. Your spot is waiting.
Okay, so there's this saying in Africa that if you're going somewhere, you want to go alone. The journey is long, but it becomes shorter when you have somebody who have gone through that same path. And looking at Lagos, being one of the biggest tech hubs in Africa, what do you think that Plateau State can learn, from what Lagos is doing?
Yes, Lagos has broken a lot of ceilings. I mean, there was a time, over a decade ago, where people never thought it was possible for an ecosystem to be built, but they defied the odds. So I think one of the biggest things that we can learn from Lagos is their consistency, right, and their resilience, right? That means there were a couple of people that showed up regardless, showed up when it did not make sense, showed up when they were not earning directly from it, showed up because they just wanted to, make an impact on, people's life. And they kept showing up. There's a reason why you have, different stories being told over and over again by the same group of people. It's because those group of people showed up. Right, they showed up consistently, and we're not surprised at where Lagos is today. So the biggest lesson, not just even for Plateau, but for every other state and every other city, across the continent, is that you have to keep showing up. Like there has to be one or two people, three people that can keep showing up consistently. And one thing will be that a lesson for other cities would be make sure there's a system, right? There's a structure that ensures that regardless of whoever is in town, growth can still happen. So even though maybe today it's a certain person that everyone knows, that person doesn't have to be there forever and ever before for the ecosystem to grow, because it is not dependent on the person's shoulders, because everyone is sharing of the effort required. So having that kind of structure to ensure that every single person takes part and contributes, and regardless of the generation, regardless of the timeline, we can continue to see that handover for Plateau to never go down, but to just keep going up and up.
Oh, that's beautiful. Looking at your level of work, the kind of people you have worked with, your experience in terms of visiting different states and all of that. What excites you about the future of innovation in Nigeria?
What excites me?
I'm sure there are a whole lot.
I think it's the people. As I go across these cities, right, and meet different enablers, engaging with the founders, I think it's just the people who are just willing to commit themselves to the work, right? You see the same set of people with the same kind of character in Abeokuta. You see the same set of people with the same kind of character in Plateau, in Kaduna, in Katsina, and you're just driven. I think in Kaduna,
I'm happy that you put Plateau ahead of other states. That's fantastic.
I mean, take for example in Kaduna, the last time I was there, which was like a couple months back, 3 of the enablers, said to themselves that we are going to invest our time, our knowledge, our resources, and financially invest in startups that they are able to identify from Kaduna, such that by the end of the year, they must be able to point out to 1, 2, 3 founders from Kaduna who are successful. So these are just 3 enablers, 3 of them by themselves, they're willing to invest directly into founders. So when you meet, these people, and you don't just meet them, you see the same kind of people in Katsina, you see the same kind of people with the same character and motivation in Kano. You're like, oh yes, Nigeria's future is bright. We have good people. We have good enablers who are willing to do what it takes regardless. So, yeah.
Beautiful. So if you still have, the power to influence one thing, within the Africa landscape as far as innovation is concerned for the next decade, what would that be and why?
Okay.
That's my forte, to ask you questions.
Heavy question. It will be for us to invest in knowledge and research. A lot of the principles and the frameworks that we use to build companies are mostly imported, right? A lot of the ideas that we use to build companies are mostly imported. And over the past couple...
How do you mean by imported?
Okay, so for example, the venture capital model, right, of, grow at all costs, right, and fail, just grow at all costs, spend a lot of resources doing that. Over the past few years, we've seen the failure of that model, in the sense that it does not work within our context. Okay. Apart from the fact that, for example, the GDP per capita of Nigeria is about 8,400 naira or so, if I'm being correct. But it's the earning capacity of people in Nigeria is really, really low, and there's certain kind of companies that cannot survive in this kind of environment. So what has happened is that people kept copying and pasting what survived in a country like America, where the GDP per capita is extremely high, right? And you can afford to build certain kind of businesses. So if you try and copy and paste that here, it does not work within our context. So what I would want to spend the next, couple of years of my life will be just investing in knowledge and research of understanding what kind of businesses can be built here, what kind of ecosystem do we need to create here, what kind of frameworks do we need to adopt, from this part of the world, right? And then once we're able to design and define that, and it works for us, we can now export and share with other people to say, hey, it works for us, you guys can also try it, as opposed to just waiting to import whatever ideas that, some other people have developed. And it's not to negate or pull down those ideas. I mean, that's many years of research and hard work, but also for us to be willing to, just look deeply within our context, within our, area. What kind of businesses should be built now? What kind of business should be built later? What frameworks, what structures do we need to think about? That's something that is very, very, that is lacking right now, and I'm committed to doing that.
All right, beautiful. If I get you right, bridging the knowledge gap.
Yes.
That is exactly what you want to do.
Exactly.
I wish we could, have you for a very long time. But of course, I'm sure you would always want to come visit, just like you visit Ogun State, Kaduna, Katsina, I know you would like to still visit to check and see, oh, wow, this is fantastic. And when you travel to some other places, even within, the African continent and outside Africa, you would like to say, look at Plateau, look at what they are doing. I love what they are doing. Maybe we'll now have weekly or Tuesdays. Maybe our own will not just be Fridays alone. All right. Thank you very much. CEC for coming around. Well, that is what we can take right here on the Silicon Plateau podcast. Keep building, keep learning, and keep telling the Plateau story. Till next time when we meet, of course, I still remain yours sincerely, Pedro Obobolaji.